What did a medieval knight really do all day? While stories show us a life of combat and honor, the truth is a shocking routine of administration, complex politics, and brutal legal duties. Was he more of a CEO than a warrior? In this video, we uncover the 7 surprising roles that defined a knight's daily life, from pious monk to pragmatic judge. The reality is far more complex and far more interesting than you've ever been told. Role 1, the pious monk. A knight's day did not begin with the clang of steel, but with the quiet, solemn ringing of a chapel bell. His first duty before any other wasn't to his sword, but to his soul. Before the sun had fully risen, a knight and his immediate family were expected to attend Mass. This wasn't merely a suggestion. In a world governed by the rhythm of the church, where the fear of eternal damnation was a tangible everyday reality, this was a critical obligation. It reinforced the concept of muscular Christianity, the idea that their physical prowess was a divine gift to be used in service of God's will. Attending Mass was a public display of piety, a signal to his household and his peasants that he was a righteous leader worthy of his station. Many wealthy knights even had their own private chapels and a personal priest, a clear sign of status. They would listen to readings from the Bible, observe the countless feast days of saints, and live with the constant weight of sin on their shoulders. This daily act of worship was the spiritual armor they wore before ever touching their physical one. Role 2, the CEO and administrator. Immediately after Mass, the knight would trade his prayer book for a ledger. He was the CEO of a small agricultural corporation, and this was his morning board meeting. He would meet with his reeve or steward, the manager of his lands, to confront the mundane realities of the balance sheet. They wouldn't discuss battle strategies, but market prices and manorial accounts. They'd review rents, not just cash, but rents paid in kind, bushels of wheat, chickens, barrels of ale. They would check the income from the manor's monopolies, like the fee every peasant had to pay to use the Lord's mill, to grind their grain, or his oven to bake their bread. A knight's literacy was crucial, debunking the myth of the dumb brute. He had to read charters, deeds, and contracts. Then came the disputes. Imagine 2 farmers, John and William, in a bitter argument over a strip of land. It was the knight's job to listen to both sides and pass judgment. It was his problem if a poacher was caught or if a merchant was charging unfair prices. A single bad harvest could be more devastating than a lost skirmish, as it meant he couldn't afford a new war horse, better armor, or the loyalty of his men. Role 3, the quartermaster. With the day's business addressed, the knight would turn to the tools of his trade. But this was not the glorious practice we imagine. It was a meticulous, pragmatic inspection. He was the head quartermaster of his own small army. He would head to the armory, checking his equipment for wear and tear. A full suit of high-quality plate armor could cost the equivalent of a luxury car today. And it was his responsibility to manage the team that maintained it. The armorer who repaired the plates, the fletcher who made the arrows, the blacksmith who shod the horses. He would then proceed to the stables, the heart of his military might. A knight's war horse or destrier was a massive investment. He would inspect them for any signs of sickness or injury. The process of simply getting dressed for battle was a ritual in itself, requiring 1 or 2 squires to meticulously strap and buckle over 100 individual pieces of armor together. This was not preparation for glory. It was the intense logistical work of preparing for life or death. Role 4, the hunter and provider. The afternoon was often dedicated to what we might call leisure. But for a knight, almost nothing was ever for leisure. The most common activity was hunting. Falconry, the sport of hunting with trained birds of prey, was a status symbol that honed a knight's patience. But the real work was the chase. Hunting boar, or deer on horseback, with lances and hounds, was a direct simulation of combat requiring expert horsemanship and courage. Furthermore, it was a powerful display of lordship. Under the harsh forest law, only the nobility had the right to hunt in designated forests. Poaching was a crime punishable by mutilation or death. So when a knight hunted, he wasn't just training or finding dinner, he was actively enforcing his legal and social dominance over the land. It was also a social activity used to entertain guests and forge political bonds with neighboring lords. Role 5. The diplomat and emissary. A knight's duties often extended far beyond the borders of his own land. As a member of the nobility, he was part of a complex web of alliances and obligations. A powerful lord or king would often use his knights, not as soldiers, but as trusted messengers and diplomats. Imagine being tasked to ride for days carrying a sensitive message to a rival lord. You would need to navigate treacherous roads and political minefields. At the rival court, you would have to present yourself with etiquette and grace speak, eloquently negotiate terms, and constantly be on guard for deception or betrayal. A misspoken word could lead to a diplomatic incident or worse, war. This required a sharp mind, a smooth tongue, and nerves of steel skills, very different from those used on the battlefield. Role 6. The tournament champions a celebrity athlete. In times of relative peace, a knight needed a way to maintain his skills and, more importantly, his reputation. This gave rise to the tournament circuit. These were not the choreographed events of movies. They were brutal, often chaotic competitions where knights could win fame and fortune. A successful tournament knight was the equivalent of a modern celebrity athlete. They would travel from city to city competing in jousts and large-scale mock battles called melees. Winning brought immense prestige and prize money, often captured from the ransoms of defeated opponents. They had fans, they had rivals, and their victories and losses were the talk of the noble courts. It was a life of high risk and high reward, driven by ego and the endless quest for glory. But all of these duties, from praying and bookkeeping to diplomacy and sport, pale in comparison to the one shocking legal power a knight had to wield within his own domain. This final role is the one that truly separates the romantic myth from the brutal reality. Role 7. The judge and executioner. Here is the most shocking and unfamiliar part of a knight's daily routine. As the lord of his domain, the knight was the law. This was not a metaphor. He had the right to hold a manorial court to judge petty crimes. But for more serious accusations, the system became terrifyingly literal. He could be called upon to preside over a judicial duel or trial by combat. Imagine the scene. Two peasants locked in a bitter dispute over land are brought before their lord. There are no witnesses. With no other recourse, the knight orders the trial. The men are given crude weapons, simple wooden clubs and leather shields. A circle is drawn in the dirt. They swear an oath to God, and on the knight's command, they fight. The knight sits as the grim-faced referee, watching as men he knows, men who farm his land, bludgeon each other. The fight ends only when one man surrenders, is incapacitated, or is killed. It was believed that God would grant victory to the man who was in the right. This wasn't a battle for glory. This was state-sanctioned violence among his own people, and it was his solemn duty to oversee it and pronounce God's judgment. This is the hidden bloody truth of a knight's administrative power. So the daily life of a knight was a relentless juggling act. He was a pious monk at dawn, a sharp-minded CEO in the morning, a meticulous quartermaster before noon, a pragmatic hunter, a skilled diplomat, a celebrity athlete, and at any moment a grim-faced judge presiding over life and death. The sword practice we see in movies was just one small part of a vast and complex job description. The hidden truth is that a knight was a hybrid figure chained to a routine that demanded he be everything to everyone, all at once. This journey of uncovering the truth is the core mission of our channel. If you believe these complex, forgotten stories deserve to be told, hitting the like button is the best way to show your support. And if you're ready to continue this journey with us, then subscribe to The Night's Journey and ring the notification bell so you never miss another revelation. Because in the end, the most interesting thing about a knight wasn't how he fought, it's how he lived.